pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. All right. Yes, they did. That's awesome. Are you okay with us sitting without masks while we're talking up here? Okay, thank you. Feel free. Okay, so the first thing is our Selectmen meeting minutes from the February 1st Selectmen's meeting plus budget hearing number 2. Any questions, comments, changes?
No, I don't think I didn't see anything.
I will take a motion to approve those then.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February, what was it, date? February 1st. And the public hearing.
And I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go. Signature. All right.
Full time.
And then the next item is going to be 4A, ARPA funds. So we asked some, through e-news and other communication, to get some input on any items that town taxpayers and residents felt would be a good idea to spend some of the ARPA funds on. Emily, did you have anything you wanted to add other than the things that we've already talked about? She's on Zoom,
Okay.
sorry.
Where is she?
In the cloud.
In the cloud, right?
I am in a cloud. Sorry I couldn't make it down. I lost track of time.
That's okay.
So the only other thing I had to add, and I think you may, I know that Julie, she had forwarded the email, was from George Howard.
And George is here.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
Excellent. So he and I were talking, and I said I was going to be there. Sorry, George, we're flipping. I'm staying up in the notch. So I'll have him speak to that, and that was all that I had.
Okay,
new.
perfect. And yeah, we do have a couple emails from some other folks. So George, would you like to, would you like to comment on your suggestion for use of the ARPA funds? And
Yeah.
you are welcome to sit there, or if you want to bring a chair over and unmask while you talk, it's up to you.
I can sit here.
Okay?
First off, compliments to the board by starting your meeting with the pledge. I think it's so important. No, the reason what I brought up was to add some capability or better harden the infrastructure, the electrical power up caught a notch on both sides of the river. And from what I understand of the history of how it got routed the way it is, I think it was in the early, maybe 1931, 32, when George Morton, who made this, and came up with the scheme of it, started out with the shovel handle lift at Whitney's.
Mm-hmm.
The power of the thing, part of the power was coming out of this hydro station at Goodrich Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of the impetus behind that. The line was strung from there to the village up Black Mountain Road.
Wow.
That was the original distribution of the power. There's a tap off in that line, as you know, just the side of Whitney's, that goes out and tees over at the Moody Farm Road and Carter Notch Road,
Mm-hmm.
where it splits, but some goes to the left, to the south, just short of Eagle Mountain House. The rest goes up north of them. Eagle Mountain House is a line that goes directly to them.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, we create a single point failure point. For instance, when the big tree blew down at Christmas Farm Inn, it took power out everywhere
Right.
out to there. And so my suggestion would be to run the lines up from both sides of the river, rather than stopping at Eagle Mountain House, so you have some better capability in adverse weather. So now, my suggestion would be is to work or go to the power company and see how they would do that, what's their best means. But we've created, I think, a pretty good single point failure that takes in a lot of town there. So that was my thinking.
Interesting. And this is an idea at this point, like you have no idea of cost or timing or infrastructure or anything like that, it's just, okay.
There may be other streets and areas in town that have the same, I don't know, but
Yeah,
as a starting point,
great.
I can't take on the whole town.
I know. As much as we'd all like to.
Yeah,
That is a really interesting thought though, because living on Moody Farm and in that area, it is very vulnerable to the power outages, so. Interesting. All right, we had also an email from Debbie Crowther about the self-starting generator for the fire department, which is something that has come up already a couple of different times. And the fact that the firemen have to haul out the current one and get it going to open the bay doors doesn't leave, you're rushing to get to a fire and you can't get the doors open is not a good use. There's also another email, and I'm not sure who it's from, but it said, again, generator for the police and the fire. So that was, again, reiterating the need for that. And then there was an email from Bruce Deal who said, has anyone mentioned the possibility of holding onto the money with the potential of using it for the new fire station? So I don't know if that's a possibility or if since it's ARPA funds, if it has to be used for other things, but it's certainly a consideration to think that might be a possibility.
What is the amount again? Is it nine?
It's 94,000.
That's the ARPA money?
Yeah.
Okay.
And going back to the generator for the fire department and possibly the library as well, which is the two probably most common things that I've heard, is the cost. So $94,000 sounds like a lot of money, but Jay, you and I were just chatting very briefly about the fact that it's probably going to not even cover.
The existing fire station, the way it stands, would take at least a 50K, which a year ago, the price on a 50K was 35. And they told me a week or two ago that it was 20,000 more just in 1 year.
Yeah.
And then in order to get a generator that would suffice any kind of a renovation, upgrade, addition, or a new station, we'd have to get pretty close to 100 kW, which is what Twin Mountain put in.
Mm-hmm.
150 kW is what North Conway put in, but that was due to the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
So the load is, I talked to a guy from down south, great guy, really knew, he's the one that installed Twin Mountains, he's the one that installed North Conway's, and he was basically saying 100 kW is what you should do and need to do for the future. Which would be, Twin paid $77,000 for theirs, and that was over a year ago, so I don't know he hasn't gotten back to me with the official today price, but it's more than $77,000.
Yeah.
So this is a capacity for the whole
Fire
fire,
building.
the whole building.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're using every possible bit of electricity that
See,
you
we
need.
have
Right.
3 phase in the building to run that
Okay.
CBA air compressor. So 100K would run any future upgrades, expansion, or a new building. I
And
was
then,
hoping a 50K would work.
And everything running at the same time, it just comes right.
Basically, yeah,
And then
that's
we
how
talked-
they design it.
we talked about if there was a possibility of using that in contingency or in coordination with the library, and that doesn't sound like it's a possibility. They would need their own.
No.
And is the generator that you have now something that could be repurposed to the library if the funds were used for the
Could be,
generator?
as long as they want to manually restart it every time.
Yeah,
I mean,
right. And,
Gas
I mean,
powered
it's just
internet.
throwing everything out there and
Yeah,
asking
you
questions.
crank,
But.
crank.
Mhm.
And then weren't you saying that there were some other infrastructure costs that would have to be spent if we did go forward towards a new generator?
well, the idea would be to take the old salt shed down, get it positioned where it would need to be for the future so it wouldn't have to be moved again.
Yeah,
And then that helps with plowing and parking and everything that's involved with what we do with the fire station in the future,
okay.
one way or the other.
And just so I'm clear about the generator we have now, is it working at all, or do we?
No, it works fine.
Yeah.
It's working.
It's just, it's a 3,000, a 6,000 watt Honda.
Okay.
And what happens is, we've kind of set it up so it's outside and it's a lot easier to deal with.
Sure.
But when we had our -20 weather,
Yeah.
it didn't get taken inside and type
Oh, yeah.
of thing, so it was hard to start. We did get it started, and it does run the door, so
Mhm.
it's not like it doesn't work, it's
Right.
not
Right.
ideal. People are getting older, they're getting sick and tired of having to deal with that thing
Yeah, I get
2 in the
that.
morning,
Yeah.
and it's -20.
Yeah, it's not fun.
We want one that actually come on automatically, switches right over. That's what
The
we want.
good part about the new one, 100K, is it comes with the way they set it up, is you don't have to deal with propane. It comes with a fuel tank attached straight to it, like a 500-gallon fuel tank under it.
Yeah.
And you fill it with winter grade diesel fuel.
Yeah.
And it's all, because he told me 100K would take six
Propane.
1,000-gallon
Yeah.
propane tanks to run it.
That's pretty.
So
Okay.
you don't have to worry about tying it into the propane or anything. It's all
Yeah,
No,
that's
good.
nice. And so some of the other,
Well, I just
Go
want
ahead,
to ask on the fire department thing, not to be interrupted. I don't know what the time frame is for you to have to designate those funds, but the simple fact that you've got somewhere between today's $54,000 or $5,000 to $100,000, I would think that you would do nothing with the money until you got that decision on that and got a real firm plan and number.
right.
If the time allows you to do that.
Yeah, we have plenty of time. I
Okay,
don't
so
think we're in any hurry to make
that would
a
be My
decision.
suggestion, you get that project.
Yeah,
6 months to a year to order a generator.
right, right,
And,
Yeah. So-
and one brand is a year,
Yeah.
another brand is 6 months.
yeah. Okay, the other items that were talked about were the cistern on Tyrol, a new repeater on Tyrol, and then, like we had mentioned before, the generator at the library. So, those were, things that we'd already kicked out there, talked about a little bit, so. If there are, oh, Emily?
I just want to add, I have been in touch with Lycan. There is some possible other funding streams. This is what we're always kind of looking at, that they're through the MWDH friendly grant. I think you're aware of that.
Yeah.
I sent that to her, and how that might be access for funding. In talking with Courtney Jordan, our field rep too, we could put forward, another grant through, another grant application through the performance grant process. Those take longer, and so that's why it was really kind of looking at the ARPA funding. That's the most full funding
Right.
to really expedite getting the generator for the firehouse. So again, it's not that, there's some other grant opportunities out there. It's just looking at prioritizing of these projects.
Gotcha.
Is there a deadline for when we have to use this money? I know
Yeah,
I've heard
Julie,
it,
you
but I
know
didn't
that, and I can't remember what it is.
Or,
What was it?
Yeah, I think it's not till like 2024.
That's what I thought, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then, Lycan, did you have anything that you wanted to add on that as well?
I was just here sort of supporting the idea of a generator for the library. The library really does act as a day shelter, especially when there's a lengthy loss of power in town. And so I'm just sort of supporting that idea.
Great. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if we can definitely tap into any of those other grants. That would be great. So, all right, if there are any other ideas that come through from anyone, or, if you guys in your conversation are talking to anyone, that these are the common ones that we keep hearing. So I definitely hear the need for the generators, and I think they're valid. But if there are any other ideas, and George, I appreciate your input too, let's bring them forward. Anything else on your mind for ARPA funds? Anything on yours?
No, just I'm glad
Yeah.
that, so we want to set aside what George had to say,
Yeah.
Maybe to look into that, someone should talk to the co-op. It sounds to me like it's going to be a lot more than $94,000.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, for sure, but it's something that,
I don't know
but
enough about it.
something to
say for
consider
sure.
and find out what, is there anything that could be provided by the state or any other
Same
funding?
with the new funding released by,
Yeah,
the government.
Yep.
I think that would be on the docket.
yeah, so we'll definitely look into that outside of the ARPA funds as well, so. All right, we have a kind of a cleanup document that we need to go over, and Pam Smiley and James Kuhn are both on the Zoom call right now, but there's this is for the Vista Way right-of-way, and so there were some documents that needed to be, I think they were just revised, and Pam, do you want to speak to that?
Is she here?
Yep.
Hi, Barb, this is
Hi, Pam.
Miley. Yes, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. Well, I just prepared an easement deed because Tom Bergeron basically brought it to my attention, and he was, happy to do it. It's a portion of the Kuhn's property that the road goes over.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a deed from Tim Kuhn to the town to allow the town to continue to do what they've been doing.
And so all we really need to do, because this is an agreement with conversations that we've already had, is make a motion to approve and accept this right-of-way agreement. Is that correct?
Well, it's an easement deed, yes, and I believe the town attorney has already approved it.
Yes, he did. And so it's an easement deed. Okay. Any questions, John or Frank?
No.
Then I will take a motion to approve and accept this easement deed from James Kuhn to the town of Jackson for a triangle parcel on Vista Way.
I'll make that motion.
No second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much for the documentation, and we will get all of the necessary signatures on that and notarization.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. We have on here a conversation about the transfer station and bulky waste. So last week we had a meeting with the Bartlett Select Board on their disposition of mattresses and things, and we were presented with what appeared to be an invoice, but sort of ended up not being an invoice, but it was for $2,100 for the cost of Jackson's portion of disposal of mattresses. I don't know, John, after that meeting, do you have anything? I don't know that I agree with the way they calculated it, because I know they disposed of some mattresses on our dumpsters as well as theirs, but I don't know if we should pay
My
a
understanding is they
portion,
didn't do
or-
any on ours. I'm mistaken on that? Or?
No, I thought they said, probably, there were probably 4 or 5 out of that 130. So a small portion, but it was an estimate based on the dollars that they took in for mattresses from Jackson, and they used that number to say, this is our calculation of an estimate of how much a mattress weighs and how much we should be paying Bartlett back to dispose of it. So, first of all, do we want to write a check for $2,100 to Bartlett? And secondly, how do we want to do it moving forward? And we sort of talked about that at the meeting, but I guess my point now is, do we really want to write a check for $2,100 for something that they're estimating the costs of?
Was it
And I don't know if I'm comfortable with
per
that.
mattress or percentage?
They gave a calculation of how many mattresses, the estimated weight of a mattress range, and they used like a middle to low weight of a mattress, and how much the hauling fees and the tipping fees were for those pieces.
They put it in with the demolition material, okay, because the mattresses were getting
Yeah.
wet, hanging around, so it could be heavier, so they said, look, let's get rid of these and put it in with the demolition, and they figured a weight, whatever it was, I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
And they came up with the $2,100, and I have no idea.
And because they put them all into Bartlett's
Yeah.
dumpster, then they paid for the,
We've actually
Removal of
collected
it.
the money for those mattresses.
Right.
Right.
Right, so they just, if we were gonna dispose them one way or the other, they just got disposed in the construction bin versus their normal dumping procedures.
right.
So that money's been collected and accounted for technically. The only thing we haven't paid is the disposal fee. You know,
Right.
Technically, we probably do owe them that money at some caliber. I don't know whether $2,100 is the right number,
Right.
I just think
the
the
former manager decided to do this on his own, and then that was the snafu.
on his own over a year ago.
Right.
Yes.
We just found
We
out.
just found out.
So do we want to make a proposal of how much we want to pay Bartlett to have disposed of this material already? And just present them with that offer?
I haven't thought of a dollar figure myself. but-
Okay, I mean, that's why we've
Yeah.
got it here, is to consider it, and, you know, I don't disagree that they paid for the cost to dispose of it, it's just how much do we theoretically think that cost should be to the town of Jackson? So maybe we'll keep it as let's think about an amount that we think is fair and bring it up at the next meeting, or do you want me to throw out my thoughts?
John, you've spent some time up there, I know, and you've worked up there, and
Yeah,
I mean, it's
not
just
recently,
piece
but
to
yeah,
piece.
I didn't notice they were doing it myself, I mean, when I was working up there, but then again, that's all hauling out, usually on off hours anyways, but, I'd like to think about the formula a little bit, and just, look at how they calculated it, and, what the cost would have been if we had shipped it via the normal route versus,
Right,
we shouldn't absorb all that cost, I mean, some of
Right.
it would go to them, some of it should go to us, I think.
I agree.
and remember, John was a math teacher.
This
is
I-
like a
I-
perfect guy.
I'm not an accountant, I'm not an
I
accountant.
know, that's why I'm challenging it, because I'm an accountant, you can do the math. But, I feel like that we do owe them something, but I don't know what the right amount is. I also know that tipping fees and hauling fees have changed over the last year a couple times, so what fair rate is that? So if you want to do a little math, and we'll bring it up at the next meeting and come up with a dollar amount to propose to Bartlett, I think that's a way to move forward.
Sounds good.
George?
Is there a document that I could look at that governs the operation of the transfer station in the towns to address the kind of discussion that you have right now?
Probably not, that I know of. Do you think there's?
Well, they had,
anything that
we've had the
falls-
original agreement, which was way
Yeah,
back when,
way
and
back
those
when.
percentages haven't changed since we've done it, but
Right.
we've,
I don't think there's anything that's very current, that
right,
unless I'm not privy to it for, just being newer. I can find out though. Let me talk to Bartlett and find out what kind of documentation we do have. It might be a good opportunity to look at it anyway and see what we need to update. But like John said, the percentages of cost sharing have not changed.
Isn't it 60/40, John? Is it
Yeah.
still 60/40?
depends on the type of thing. It's 50/50 for major,
Capital
60/40, and I think it was 75/25 for.
Is that in a document?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that
for
part
the
is-
original 1983
Yeah.
plan way back when,
No, it wasn't 83. It had to be after 88.
88,
After
whatever, 89.
91.
That was just
Yeah.
yesterday, right? But the other thing is, there's the joint account where money does come in and it goes into a joint account. And that is used for major infrastructure costs. There are a couple of new dumpsters that we're purchasing and redoing some of
Containers.
the asphalt up there. So that is being fully expended out of that joint account, which is nice because it's got a very healthy balance in it. And knowing when we have to buy new equipment or make some improvements, there is a fund for that.
Where would I see that joint account?
That we have statements in, so you could ask either of the Julies to get those for you. We get a copy of it every month. Bartlett maintains the record keeping of it, and they bring copies of the bank statement every month, but we also co-sign checks out of that account.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. All right, we will continue that discussion at the next meeting in the end of March. So the next is an FYI. We have several openings, and we have put a public notice out for available positions, and these are volunteer positions that generously donate their time and effort to the town of Jackson. So there are currently 12 openings for appointed board members. For the planning board, there are 3 regular members for 3-year positions, 1 alternate member for a 3-year position, 1 alternate member for a 1-year position. And then under the Conservation Commission, there are 2 regular members for 3-year positions. And for the Zoning Board of Adjustment, there is 1 regular member for a 3-year position and 1 alternate member for a 3-year position, 1 alternate for a 2-year position, and one alternate for a 1-year position. So if you are currently a volunteer in any of these positions, please express your interest to the Board of Selectmen through the town office. And if you are new and wanting to join any of these boards for any of the open positions, also submit a letter of interest to the Board of Selectmen no later than March 17th, 2022. And it can be mailed to P.O. Box 268 Jackson or email to adminassist@jackson-nh.org. And for more information, call Julie Hoyt. So thank you to all the people who already volunteer and any of those that are interested. All right, trustees of the trust funds. During some maintenance and housekeeping work, Julie and our auditor found one of the withdrawals from the trust funds that was not voted on and approved. So I will read this withdrawal from the trust funds, requesting to follow with withdrawals from the trust fund from $1,044.50 from the Maloon Groundwater Expendable Trust Fund 0071, attached invoice 28719 dated July 31st, 2021 to HEB Engineers. So the invoice was paid and the withdrawal request was previously missed. So we just need to have a motion to approve the $1,044.50 from the Maloon Groundwater Expendable Trust Fund.
All right, I'll make a motion to use that balloon money and approve it.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Signature, please. And just as a side note, in case there are questions, yes, we do have to continue paying this to protect the groundwater that surrounds the houses that are in that area. So that is an ongoing expenditure every year.
Long time.
Yes, a long, long time. I even know that. All right, this is my favorite topic, Valley Cross Road Bridge update. We received an email from Burr today that said he has good news and bad news. And the good news is that we finally have a defined plan to get us to the finish line, which means we can go out to bid. But the bad news is that it's probably not going to happen for another 6 months. And he doubts that any on-ground construction will occur in this calendar year of 2022. So that's the long and short of it. In addition, the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources has determined that the existing pedestrian and sidewalk hand railing is significant and requires additional documentation. So now that the trusses are settled and we're keeping them, they have to do some additional documentation to regardless of whether we keep the railing, modify it, or replace it. And I'm not sure why this was not done years ago. So anyway, they're working on that, but GPI's Cultural Resource Consultant and the Army Corps, DOT, and DHR will work together to complete the remaining cultural resource paperwork and approvals within 6 weeks. And then there are other finalizing environmental review and wetlands applications. So that'll be in addition to that time. And then the review of the environmental document and wetlands application may take 4 months after that. So we're looking at next year. I am curious if either of you think, because I've heard this asked before, whether it's worth it to keep that a road or if we should close it and make it a pedestrian bridge.
Absolutely should stay a road.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I knew you were going to comment from the fire department, and so I really
Alternative ways.
yeah. Any thoughts on that, just personally?
I have to agree with Jay on
Yeah.
that one.
Okay.
I'm being agreeable today. Okay.
I just threw it out there because I've heard it asked before, and it just seems like this is a forever project that just keeps coming up with new and interesting things.
I know it.
We have probably one of the most historical bridges in all of the country, and we're going to know all about it by the time we're done with this. So thanks for answering that. I figured that would probably
You
be
may
the
get it out
answer.
there in
Jerry's not here.
2025.
It's 117
No, Jerry's
years,
not here, but that's, yeah, I think we all.
117 years old.
Yep. So that's the update on the Valley Cross Road Bridge. No motions necessary tonight on that. The discussion for the town meeting with Zoom. So I haven't done anything yet, and when John Stocky gets back in to the Whitney Center next week, Hank and I will go over there. We're going to attempt to log into a Zoom meeting and see what the sound quality is like, the Wi-Fi access to make sure there's no interruption, and find out what microphones we can use to make sure that the people that are on Zoom can hear things from the town meeting. My intention in running a Zoom meeting is not to have access for public comment, so people won't have audio access to be able to comment from the Zoom meeting. They'll be spectators only. However, my husband David Campbell has volunteered to run the Zoom part of it so I can concentrate on the meeting and take any chat questions that might come through that should be posed or comments. So that's, and I know that no one can vote, and it's purely a spectator type of attendance, but I just want to see if we can make as many people, give as many people access to view the town meeting in real time as possible. Bill?
Well, I've been doing my own little work on that. Long story short, what I was going to ask, we got to get a clear definition. The school, there's issues of, well, are they going to continue mandate masks on school property, or are they going to back that off? But that's got to be clarified. But in working and talking to a bunch of moderators in the association and the state, and talking to Secretary of State's office, my recommendation and my feeling is that we go forward on our traditional town meeting. And what it seems that if there's a majority on that side of the world, what is being suggested, and it's just suggestions as the majority, that we do social distancing with the setup. We designate a specific area that could be a mandatory mask required regardless, or it could be an area where if you don't feel you want to wear a mask, we can designate a separated, clear, distinct area. There's a lot of animosity out there in the world about being mandated. Personally, I would like to continue on that. Again, it's the selectmen's decision on where the place, time, and where we have it. But as far as the moderator has the authority to look at public safety and make sure that we have a safe meeting. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, we could have a safe meeting holding a traditional town meeting, just as I explained. There's enough room, if you look at the last 12 years of attendance, to take the Whitney Center and be able to manage a designated area for and for not, and still be able to hold our tradition. It's a kind of a traditional form of government in the state, and it's...
Right. Do you have any objection to having a Zoom option for spectators to be able to watch the meeting and possibly send in questions via chat? That's my... Is there any ruling against it, or is there...
There's no...
Precedent.
There's no real clear answer to that, but my personal opinion is I would be against it, because I think it's the vote of the people can be very strong, even though you say it's a traditional thing in New Hampshire, and there's a big stand that the towns that operate under the town meeting form of government keep the tradition. Mm-hmm. And we can look at the stats about up and down with the COVID and all of the different things that we work about. I personally don't think you'll get the true answers from people and the true discussions about different things, although we don't have a lot of heated articles, I don't believe. Mm-hmm. I just think I would be against the Zoom meeting. I think it just is... Even
for just spectator, not discussion really. I mean, I'm not...
Well, I guess let me rephrase that. If you're thinking we set up for a traditional town meeting, but we also add the Zoom ability for those that don't want to come, that's I don't see a big problem with that.
That's all
that's
I
what
want to
she's
do,
saying.
because I don't want to
Okay.
have the back and forth, and I don't feel like
Right.
the sound quality would be wise. I feel like
Exactly.
I want to have as
Yeah.
many people attend as we can, so they're involved in the viewing of the conversations. I don't think it's logical or possible to have good sound back and
No.
forth. Like Jay said, he can't hear when people are talking on the Zoom
That's
from my
right.
computer, so we would have to configure something
But I
else.
do think we can,
But-
I think we can hold, in that 100 plus or minus category, pretty easily designated area for, as you say, whether we designate an area for people that absolutely want to wear masks, or the
Okay.
opposite
And
way around.
Yeah, that's
Now,
outside
the
of the
other
Zoom
problem, we could
conversation.
sit here all day and try to figure that out. It's school property, the rules of operating on school property are totally the school board's decision. The Superior Court ruled on that on us several years ago. So we kind of have to take that into consideration, what their mandate's going to be. And they may answer that. They may say, we want masks on school property, period.
Yeah.
So there's an unknown. But Barbara, that's good. If you, in addition to the traditional form of town meetings, I'd be all, that's
Yeah,
fine.
and I know that Hank has the ability to stream, but I know we've had some difficulty with connectivity too, so that's another reason I want to test out our availability.
Yeah, Wi-Fi at the school Buddy Center is really good.
Yep, it is good.
Yep.
What happened with the town, school board meeting that
I
couldn't
forgot
stream?
I forgot a cable to connect.
Okay, so it wasn't a technology
No, I just-
access or anything.
I just forgot a cable.
Okay, so, then we'll try both of those and see if it works. Again, if people want to chat, then, that David can manage, but I think that the real conversation happens in the room, like you said. George?
No, my preference would be to have a regular town meeting and masks are optional. If you want to wear one, wear. If you don't.
And that's what Billy's saying.
Yep.
We'll have,
I appreciate
Well,
that.
Don't separate anyone.
Oh,
You separate, you want
Well,
to
that's a good,
No, it's good to know
Well,
what
it's-
thoughts
I
are.
think it's a compromise to say, to do,
It's a,
Billy is
sure.
saying, satisfy both sides.
All right, hold on.
Don't disagree with you,
Yep,
but again, there are people
Hold
that
on.
have very
Yeah.
strong principles and.
and
we try to
we're
accommodate
gonna
those.
make a decision
Yeah.
as the next few weeks come, because we do have only two and a half weeks left
We do
before
not-
the meeting,
we should
so
have
we
at
have
least
to make a
one
decision.
representative conversation
Yep.
as we get towards it.
John?
I think it's great to have the Zoom option. I'm probably not in favor of having them engaging in the conversation of the town meeting because A, we don't know the reliability of
Right.
it. And it may be great, it may be poor, that would limit, the number of people that could speak or want to speak. And, also it could drive the conversation away from what we're discussing at the meeting, which is,
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying nobody gets to talk. Like, they can
well, even the.
visualize it, and I'm not gonna man it. But that's good. Jay?
One thing to keep in mind,
It
if
may
you
not
do
even be
6-foot distancing on chairs,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a lot of people show up due to specific discussions maybe. I've had an extremely bad year with egress issues at businesses in town this year for some reason. So there'll be no ifs, ands, or buts about blocking egresses or blocking the hallway. It's been, I don't know why this year is bad, but it's been bad for businesses in town having blocked egresses. And I've had to crack down on them a little bit. So they're just gonna have to figure that out if you only get 75 seats because you're spacing chairs out 6 feet, there'll be no room for people blocking egresses or sitting in the hallway.
Right, okay. And maybe we can look back at how many people we did have 2 years ago when we did have the 6 feet of separation with clusters for people that came together and see how many we had there.
Unofficially, I
Bill?
think it was around 110,
I thought that's, we had-
112.
it was 100.
That was pretty, and last year in the tent, we had 77. That's unofficial. I didn't actually have everybody sign, but we had, the nearest count, 3 or 4 different people tried to maintain, including myself.
Yeah.
We had about 77 people in the tent. The only other thing I wanted to ask, I'm hoping you get, however we're gonna set the building up, I hope unless it's a storm, we can utilize the
Sure.
the department the day before, whatever. We may have to do a little.
Right, I mean, we may need some more.
That's just as long as we
Wires
can.
and ropes, and
Yeah.
we'll do whatever we need.
So, as we're talking about the Zoom access then, if Hank's able to stream, then that would have the same effect as me Zooming the meeting. So there's redundancy there, and there really is no reason to have a Zoom meeting in addition to the streaming, because the streaming allows people to watch.
Right.
Right. So will I be
So-
straight streaming also? May I just be streaming myself?
Yep,
Okay.
I think that's what we'll go with. And so do you need any additional technology, speakers, microphones, anything from us to,
Make it work.
on the stage or anything?
No, I just need a certain place where my computer and camera,
Okay,
and
So,
looking you guys and all that.
we will get together then still and figure out where to set that up.
Okay.
All right, so then we are not gonna have a Zoom option at the town meeting. Hank is gonna stream it live, so people can access that way, yes. let's
And
send out a
also,
link.
we can stream, I'm gonna be streaming to my Jackson Flex Facebook page.
Yep,
Because the website, it's still business class hosting and everything, but I'll be streaming to the Jackson Flex website.
okay, so we'll post that like we did like you did for the school board meeting with the link that people can click on
Yep.
ahead of time?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, I'll get that with you on that then.
And I also need the Wi-Fi password.
No.
Can't
The
trust you with that.
Wi-Fi
Can't trust you with
password for
that.
the Whitney Center, correct?
Right, yeah.
Right, okay.
The one thing that weighed in on those discussions that I've had with the Secretary of State's office, is we've had a change in the guard, but our new Secretary of State's great for many years. The problem comes in by not having the traditional town meeting and the actual deliberative portion. If there is an article that's on the warrant, and it's normally a moderator's decision on how that's passed. Voice vote, show of hands, stand,
Right.
divide the house. The problem comes in if somebody says, I want a secret ballot. and
Right.
It requires 5 registered voters that are present at the deliberative portion to sign a piece of paper handing to the moderator prior to discussion, to deliberating on that warrant, on that article. That becomes a potential issue if there is a controversy, and it could be a mess. So that's why they're not ruling, they're just saying, keep that in mind if you do not have your normal deliberative
No,
type of
I
town
mean,
meeting. So that's something you
yeah.
can, just keep in the back of your head is all, because that could, I can't imagine.
I don't think
gonna
we're
have
straying
anything
from
like
that part at all.
Right, I hope
So,
we don't get to
Nope.
that at all.
Okay, so,
Streaming
just
might keep the, people who might not,
be comfortable.
active in the process so much as stay home,
So they
that
can
might
listen.
lighten the
Yeah.
load there too.
Yep. Anything else? All right. So I will work with you, Hank.
Yeah.
We'll get notification out so people can access the live stream if they want, and then we'll get together, Bill, when we decide on the chairs and masking and all the logistics there. Okay, pending Lions Club bench. We really haven't moved on this at all because we haven't picked a location and a color yet. So if anybody has any input on where to put that, I still think it would be kind of awesome to have it by the community garden, but I'll see if Jeff Sires can weigh in next meeting and see if we have any choice in
Good
that.
springtime activity.
Yes, new bench. Okay, and our next meeting, like we said, is late, it's a month from now, so we got a while. All right, short-term rentals. Yay. We have a new application for actually it's not a new application, it's a new permit for a new owner. So it's a short-term rental that has already been approved, but it has new owners. So what we're asking new owners to do is more of a housekeeping issue. Because a short-term rental conditional use permit rides with the property, we want to know if there is a new contact and new information, and so that's what this is. So we don't even really need to approve it or sign it. We're just making an FYI that the Ivers are the new owners of 18 Lower Highlands, and the conditional use permit is still in effect, and the new contact information has been updated, which I think is awesome. Much less paperwork, and it's good. So, and on that note, if anyone sells their short-term rental property, they should advise their new owners to file with the town to update their contact information. Next is that we have a violation notice with the Solkowskis. We had filed one. They want to appeal our selectmen's decision, but they're going to appeal to the ZBA first. And Frank Benish and James Gleason will contact the Solkowskis of their next steps. So that's to be continued. I think this was about the. Was this about the parking issue, Julie Hoyt?
That's what I thought.
Julie, are you?
But yes, it was.
Yeah, okay. So it had to do with the parking issue for the Solkowskis, and it'll be held with the zoning board of appeals until we hear again. And then the Deneros submitted a conditional use permit, which will go to the planning board on March 17th, so we'll have that one on the next meeting. And the Ramsbottoms had submitted a conditional use permit, but they're asking us to revoke that because they're not renting their property at this time. So I think, do we need to make a motion to revoke a conditional use permit? I guess.
It can't hurt if we make one.
Can't hurt if we make one, right? So I'll take a motion to revoke the conditional use permit for the Ramsbottom short-term
I'll make that
rental.
motion.
You gonna make that motion?
I will.
All right,
I
I'll
will.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Done. And that means that if they ever want to have the conditional use permit reinstated, they have to reapply and reapply for the application, etc. No other complaints on short-term rentals. We have building and driveway permits. We have 5 new building permits: bathroom remodel, laundry room, generator, kitchen remodel, install outdoor kitchen and fireplace, patio, and a remodel. And Kevin Bennett is not here today, so I am assuming that everything is good on these. No driveway permits. And so our next meeting is actually the election day of Tuesday, March 8th from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Whitney Community Center. More information will go out about that, but I'm sure that Karen and Gloria will work on ropes and arrows so we can make sure everyone is safe and follows the dotted lines. And then Thursday, March 10th is the town meeting, 7 p.m. at the Whitney Center, and that is more information to be announced and determined. And then the next Selectmen's meeting is Tuesday, March 22nd at 3:30 p.m. in the office here, and we will decide as it gets closer whether or not we will have a Zoom option necessary for that meeting. So, anything else for you two?
I'm all set.
Public comment, Bill Kelly.
Can I take this off if I still
Yes,
have
you
it?
can.
Not off, but this is a call. Yeah, very short. This is just a kind of a passionate plea to you three. I read the minutes of the planning board meeting and the discussion about all of a sudden we've got a lot of things coming at us. And I just would like to go on record, and I would very much encourage you, and I know you probably aren't going to even think about this till after town meeting, I don't know how things are going to go, but I would encourage you, based on the really good discussion we had with the suggestion I made that you all thought was great, and we do a study of the town facilities. I still don't know how it's even worded. I don't think the intent was to do a community plan or a town plan. It was really to look at our facilities and talk to our departments and get some ideas, and I'd like you to keep that in the realm of the selectmen. I think you or the pre-reach board and the future boards, I think this is, regardless of how we all went about this, it's a very important thing. We all agree that something's got to be done at least with the fire station. I hate to see the momentum die. I spent 16 years on the planning board, and I will reserve comments on what good and bad, but I think it belongs here, and I think you need to involve the department heads, and as I said that night, either reappoint the existing committee for those that may want to, or start a new one, but I think the selectmen need to be more involved, and I think the committee, whoever, and however it's set up, we need to get really out there in the public and get good information and keep it going. And I'm just giving you a passionate plea, keep it in-house. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any other public comments? All right, I will take a motion to adjourn, and we are going to go into a non-public for RSA 91-A:3 to A. Motion?
Oh, I'll make a motion that we go into executive session. Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for attending the Zoom.